to always receive this wisdom. Thank you for joining tonight's 99th Pearl of Wisdom. That means we have been doing this 99 times. It's unbelievable. Since post-pandemic, right when pandemic hit, we started doing this, bringing together a group of our beautiful, wonderful, lovely friends and doing the 99th Pearl of Wisdom tonight just shows that we have been really at it. And Mynoo Maryel always graces us with her presence, bringing this wisdom alive for us tonight, 99th out of 108 Pearls of Wisdom. And she will share, Mynoo Maryel will share the 7 aspects that form the perfect alliance. Now, not only are we going to talk about 99, what that's all about, but how you can utilize this strategy of building alliances that will catapult the realization of your vision for your life, your work, and your relationships. So this word alliance is a big word, and I know we're all interested in forming good alliances, perfect alliances, alliances that are win-win, that make sense for both us and those that we are working with. So I'm excited to hear Mynoo's vantage point on this 99th Pearl of Wisdom Alliance. Again, the 7 aspects that form the perfect alliance and how you can utilize the strategy of building alliances to basically catapult the realization of your vision for your life, your work, your relationships to the next level. So with that, thank you all for joining. And I'm going to turn this over to Mynoo Maryel so we can get started on our 99th Pearl of Wisdom. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this one too. So let's begin. Yes, you talked about the 99th Pearl of Wisdom and the significance of the number 99. It is a master number, and I'm sure if we Google search it, there's quite a lot of stuff that is there about the number 99. What I see for myself, number 9 in itself it's a very powerful completion number, which enables you to self-actualize into the next incarnation of yourself. So it's a very powerful number. So 99 is a powerful number of reinvention. And here we are talking about alliance, and alliances, building alliances as a way of bringing about that reinvention for ourselves. So looking at alliance, the 7 aspects to form the perfect alliance. First, let's really engage with what is the meaning of alliance itself. It's in fact a union or an association that is formed for mutual benefit. So it is something that is a conscious choice, a conscious decision made by all the parties that come together to form an alliance. And often the alliance partners have got similar interests. And in the perfect alliance, they also embody similar nature or qualities. In nation alliances, that is not necessarily the case, but certainly for the purpose of the alliance, they do take on similarity of interest. So if we look at ourselves as individuals, and we look at where do we have this alliance strategy playing out, we may not do it in the way that the governance heads of particular nations might do. But it is very clear that the way some certain things play out is as a function of alliance. So when we have a lover, when we have an intimate relationship with someone that we choose to share our life with, that is very much an alliance type relationship. And that could be a marriage. It could be cohabiting. It could be choosing to spend a period of time together as intimate partners. That is very much an alliance that plays out in our lives. what I heard, what I got from working through alliance as a pearl of wisdom is we can proactively use the alliance strategy as a strategy of enriching our lives wherever we may be. We can use the alliance strategy as a way of enriching our time at work. And alliance, the interesting thing is not limited to alliance with another human being. It could even be an alliance with, we were talking about earlier on, AI. But utilizing these 7 aspects of forming perfect alliances is a very powerful way of realizing your vision for your life, for your work, as well as in your relationships. A union or association formed for mutual benefit. We were talking earlier on about ChatGPT and our robots going to take over our lives. And maybe we'll do a session on that very specifically at some point. But if you think about it, I know these conversations were very much present when Google was starting to take over. I mean, I go back that long when Netscape was replaced by Google. And it was like Google had the answer to everything. Will there never be any need for any libraries? Are we ever going to need experts in anything? Because Google had the answer for everything. And if you look at how it has progressed, it actually became a very powerful alliance partner. It was very much created for providing this benefit to us. But if you didn't know what to search for, then you just got, millions of pages related to a word that you put in there. And without you being able to discern how you were going to utilize that information, that alliance did not necessarily deliver anything of value. And sure enough, ChatGPT is, a better version of it. But if you don't know what to ask it, how to ask it, you will get what you get in very well-formed English. But you still won't be able to do that much with it. You can maybe do some posts, and the SEO engines are picking up on that. You won't get the benefit of the amount of blog posts that you might come up with, because SEO engines know it's coming from a ChatGPT equivalent. It is those that are actually going to make a great success out of it are where they call it a hybrid proposition, but really it is the alliance, where AI becomes a powerful alliance partner of yours. I mean, I'm quite surprised at how it is taking over the creative industries. That's the last place that I would have thought it would go into. And that seems like the first place it is impacting so powerfully. And yet, I do see, and I'm doing work with people where they are very proactively choosing to operate as alliance partners with AI. And that is phenomenal. The results are amazing. You're bringing in the efficiency through AI, but you're adding to it effectiveness by bringing your intelligence and your ability to relate to the communities that you're reaching out to. And that is very much a fundamental nature of an alliance. What was interesting to me in preparing for this Pearl of Wisdom was how, we've done a session on collaboration. And you heard me talk about there's a switch from command and control in terms of at a foundation level. There's a switch from command and control to collaborative co-creation of coexistence. And, I got collaboration, I got co-creation. And why was coexistence so important in terms of being the foundation of where the planet is now evolving into? Is because of alliance. So you can have powerful collaborators, but when you actually have some of these collaborators become your alliance partners, coexistence is a given. It takes away, like literally in an instant, it dissolves so many fears, false expectations appearing real. And you become powerful alliance partners with common interest for mutual benefit. And that's how you start rolling out. Now let's look at these 7 aspects that form the perfect alliance. Let's say we take on alliance as a way of strategizing and implementing those strategies for enriching our life in every way. The first aspect is, again, I don't edit the words when they come in, and it's an odd sort of word, which is, it's charming and she, right? So charming is, it's delighting, it's fascinating, it's attractive. That's what charming means. Chic, on the other hand, is attractive and fashionable and stylish. She is another level altogether. It's fashionable and trendy. So when you're talking about an alliance, an aspect that you engage with in choosing your alliance partners is a combination of charming and she. So an alliance partner as a given, you're coming together because there is some common interest and it is for mutual benefit. Now, when you come together with a common interest and you appreciate and recognize, your mutual benefit, and you choose to go ahead and implement that alliance, it takes some effort. It takes some dedication. So you may as well be working with alliance partners that are delighting, fascinating, and attractive. And an outcome of that could be that whatever it is that you collaboratively co-create becomes, fashionable and trendy, in which case it becomes a self-motivator to both of the alliance partners and everybody that comes in choosing to benefit from this alliance partnership. Now, once I understood that, I thought, okay, sort of makes sense, Let's look at these alliances that we have at nation state level, that there are certain countries that choose to form an alliance about something, and mutual benefit, I get, they often come in for that. Common interest is also very, very prevalent, even though it may not necessarily be motivating. It may be an alliance comes together for the purposes of war. However, there is that common interest. But what if that alliance partnership was formed with this in mind, where this aspect was taken into account: delighting, fascinating, attractive, fashionable, trendy? What could be possible then? And I mean, from a nation state point of view, I certainly, having lived in the UK for a long time, 35 years of my life, I could certainly see the alliance between the United Kingdom and United States was certainly had this aspect. And there's some amazing stuff that played out as a result of that, in terms of the two countries, in terms of many of the inventions and innovations that got rolled out across the world, with the innovations sometimes emerging out of the UK and certainly being amplified by the United States. That partnership certainly had this aspect in there. Think about your own partnerships. So when I started looking at it in my life, and I was looking at one of the most invigorating and fulfilling businesses that I created as an entrepreneur was a business called the Inspired Leaders Network. And the idea here was, I was so keen to learn about leadership, and particularly leadership that gave leaders the power to inspire extraordinary results time and time and time again. So, who best to teach me about that than inspired leaders themselves? So how would I get to them? And how would I get to them so that they actually came together and collaboratively, supported each other and supported me? Because one thing that I saw, leaders who were causing extraordinary results and those that were doing it time and time again, they were so far apart from good leaders or even great leaders. There was something very distinctive about them, that they would often be quite lonely. And when I started doing this body of work where I was really researching their qualities, role modeling them, and I met some of these people in person, I recognized how lonely it was, because, there they were going up the cliff with a whole troop of people following them, not necessarily knowing what is at the end of the cliff, having a vision where that journey was going to take them, but not necessarily knowing for sure that that is what lay at the top of the cliff. So they had their fears internally, and they could not necessarily share those or talk about those to anyone. So I created this whole concept of Inspired Leaders Network, where these leaders came together and shared their best insider secrets with each other and learned from each other. Now, if I think about what is it that enabled that business to become as effective and as impactful as it became, that even to this day, the whole body of work of the 7 Habits of Inspired Leaders continues to propel the work that I do now, propel how I show up and how I work with, the business collective that I service. If I look at that, Alliance was very much a part of that strategy. I had a vision of what I wanted to do. I recognized that for me to kickstart that and have credibility in terms of talking about what I was creating, I was not the expert. I was not that leader yet. I was someone who certainly had the sincerity and in the quest of learning about this kind of leadership, but I was not that. I could authentically show up in expressing that quest, but unless I actually created a cohort of such leaders before I took this proposition out into the market to attract others and making it a viable business proposition, I needed some key alliances. And my core alliances are going to come from some of these leaders. So I made my wish list of the 12 names that I would love to have a part of. And if these 12 were a part of an organization, any leader would want to be a part of it, inspired or not. So I began with those 12 names. I got about 8 of those to come in. And really, the first one was the key. I chose a very specific person who, in fact, was very quiet and people did not know him, but they knew his brands. And they knew that he had done something very uniquely different and distinctive to bring about these brands. And they were iconic brands. They'd become multi-billion-dollar brands in very short space of time. And I only got to him because I wanted to really master that approach of creating, building, and amplifying brands. And when I looked at who was behind it is where I found this leader. But because he was someone who wasn't that written about, he was someone who just quietly went on and, realized his vision. So I thought he would be the one. I wouldn't talk about him, but I would certainly talk about his brand. And when he gave permission, that's when I would talk about him. So he was the first one that I actually went to see. And I didn't know that. But at that point, when I look at what is it that enabled him to say, yes, I will be a part of this, even though it was a desire and a quest. And he knew that he was the first one coming in, so he would become my mentor, in fact, in understanding this form of leadership, and then going and bringing other leaders into the fold. And he took that on. So when I looked at, well, what was this particular aspect, he was absolutely, in what he had created, it was delighting, fascinating, and very, very attractive to me. How did that alliance form with him? What he's communicated to me, which is where the she, fashionable and trendy comes in, is that he was attracted in talking to me because I just had this grasp of how an idea can be converted into a business. My thinking was such, and the steps that I followed, he was fascinated by that, even though he had originated these brands, but they were all brands that were underwritten by huge corporates. And he wanted to be able to bring that level of success and profitability to fast-growing businesses, but he didn't know how to do that. So he felt that by actually coming in and becoming a part of, bringing this inspired leaders network about, and taking me on as a mentor for building what we'd created with the methodology of building it as an iconic brand that became a natural magnet for others. He felt that would be so worthy of him doing this because I had this fashionable, trendy piece, which he so wanted to learn himself. So rather than work on what he was working at that point in time to complete it and then move on and do the same thing again, he wanted his next journey, which was going to happen when he turned 50. That was several years down the line. He wanted to go into becoming a mentor for fast-growing businesses, but he didn't understand the foundation of it, how these people, what was their way of thinking, and he was going to get that from me. It really created a very powerful aspect of a phenomenal alliance between us. And we continued working together for almost 14 years. And we've still continued the connection. It's just that, my businesses grew to a point that kind of a relationship wasn't needed. But that's how it began. And sure enough, in no time at all, I had 8 of those 12 members. Then the next piece that I wanted to do was, okay, here I have got 8. It still hasn't become a business. It's fabulous when we come together that these 8 people are actually meeting each other. And there's so much knowledge being shared and learning that is rising out of it. To make it a business, it needed to be financially viable. And it only when it became financially viable in that all the costs were covered and I could see how profitability would arise, then it becomes a viable business, because then I can grow that profitability. So the next thing I needed to do was to find sponsors for these kind of roundtables that were starting to happen with inspired leaders. And I chose the alliance strategy in terms of identifying who the sponsors will be and then inviting them to be sponsors. And again, it was like, who's the first one that I'm going to bring on into this fold? Because the first one has to be such that first one itself automatically becomes so attractive to others who wish to be a part of it. And at that point, it was Cisco. Cisco was an organization that was growing very, very fast, and was many other major corporations wanted to be, to keep track of what Cisco was doing. It was the fashionable, trendy one, the shishi one. And what we required were the others who were delighting, fascinating, and attractive. Cisco, on the other hand, was growing so fast, and it had an acquisition-based strategy that as it was entering, but it had a very niche product line. It was really consolidating vertically, but for it to be effective, it needed to have partnerships horizontally across industries. So what Cisco found very attractive about what we offered was access to these decision makers who were creating new trends, inspired leaders causing extraordinary results. And they took it upon themselves. They came in, they took it upon themselves to get 5 others who were their industry partners, such as Accenture and IBM and others like that. So like literally by adopting an alliance approach to converting a desire, a quest, I was able to not only convert it into a real idea that had merit, I was able to convert it into something that absolutely was delighting, fascinating, attractive. It in fact went on to become fashionable and trendy with some really heavyweight corporate players and inspired leaders. And that's what has become a foundation of what I believe is now the new business model for this new world, which is extraordinary results, unprecedented performance, operational excellence, and transforming quality of life for you as the leader, for your stakeholders, and the planet. Little did I know that what I was doing then was actually really developing this expertise, which is quite unique and distinctive for this time. But it was the alliance methodology that enabled that to happen. And I know I've talked, many of you here are here as individuals. So this may feel a little bit far-fetched in terms of me talking about business and corporates in this way. You will, as we go along, then few other aspects of alliance, you will be able to connect the dots for you as a person. Because think about it. What did this do for me as a person? And how did that play out in other parts of my life? I will talk about as I talk about other aspects. It made me an inspired leader very rapidly. I got the best of the best of the best in the world, in fact, to be my mentors and teachers. And I shared that generously with others who then came in and wanted to be a part of this. And then it became a club that corporations wanted to have inside. And those were business ideas that I call them as derived businesses that I hadn't even thought about. I already was an entrepreneur as I became a very sophisticated one as a result of using the alliance methodology as strategically and tactically in bringing this about. Let's look at the second aspect for this, for building this, the perfect alliances. And it's lightening with an E. And it is, of course, a word that, it's about making something lighter. And that lighter could be in color, like, lightening your hair. It is also, it feels like a bolt of lightning from the sky, if you like. a metaphor for something really fast that, just cuts through the darkness and sure shot illuminates in that moment, like a bolt of lightning from the sky. There's another aspect of lightning. It's often used in medical fraternity to mark the end of the third trimester, where the baby settles or drops lower into the mother's pelvis. This is called as dropping or lightning. And it's basically something that suggests that labor is about to begin. As a metaphor, if you look at that, it's definitely a completion of sorts and a shift to, okay, now it's time to come out into the world. And when a baby does come out into the world, it truly is as illuminating, as powerfully illuminating as a bolt of lightning in the sky. From an alliance point of view, if you have an intention that you wish to achieve, and you're going to go ahead and make that happen, you're resolved about it, you absolutely can go forward and do it yourself. And it can become burdensome very rapidly. And you can still, have that bravado and use your bull force and move forward. And you can adopt an alliance approach and bring about this lightning experience. So you experience yourself as moving forward with a lightness of being. An alliance approach applied like this. My mind's working so fast as I'm connecting the dots in my own head. Or I'll share a few examples in a moment. When you use a lightning approach, you literally, one of the aspects of this is you do declare a completion for the way you have operated up to that point in time. Think about it. Think about it as when you decide you are actually going to commit to a relationship, an intimate relationship. There's no pressure. You make that choice. And however that relationship may have turned out, in that moment, there is that light, that feeling of lightness that occurs. Or when you are in a relationship and you decide you're actually now going to live together. You're actually going to build a home together. That's a little bit like, okay, the baby is lodged, labor is about to begin, and there's going to be a whole new world out there that is going to emerge. As someone who went through natural pregnancy, I know that lightning moment. I used to have this constant back pain, constant. And in that lightning moment, when the baby was lodged, ready to come out, it's like the backache disappeared. I thought I had to just live with it. It just disappeared. And, literally a couple of days later, the baby was born. Now, for me to share this in the context of when you do decide, okay, fine, now we're going to actually live together or share a home together or build a home together. There is there is a form of lightness that comes in. There is that, attractiveness and fascination and delight that's there with which you make this choice. So, and if you were to imagine or envision, when countries come together and form an alliance for whatever it is that wishes to be accomplished, suddenly, rather than one country battling its way to achieve something, it now has others, not just in terms of we're going to go into battle together, but also in terms of resources, in terms of forms of collaborations and co-creations that become possible. Now, if you were to use this aspect, there you are. You started a new career. So, for example, Catherine, you've gotten into acting, and it began with certain introductions, and the doors started opening up, and that was great. And a whole new world opened up when you got yourself a business manager. And if you have a business manager who you see as, as an alliance partner to realize the vision that you have about this particular career, you would look at these aspects in that business manager. And if they exist, there will be an experience of lightness, and results almost are guaranteed of what you will co-create. And coexistence anchors mutual benefit in place. We see this playing out very powerfully in some of the business models that we are very used to using. Uber, for example, as an organization, it's created a technology platform. Many companies create technology platforms. Nothing happens necessarily with those. But Uber's technology platform, for it to actually provide the benefit, it requires drivers to become alliance partners. And therefore, Uber can't just charge an exorbitant amount and give drivers a tiny bit. It has to constantly keep its finger on that pulse. What is it that their alliance partner is going to find attractive, fascinating, delighting, and feel that they are actually part of something that is fashionable and trendy? That's very much a part of this, because that aspect, if that is addressed, then the lightening occurs. How are we going to make this business occur in such a way that it feels lighter for those that are going to benefit from it, the end consumers, as well as the drivers themselves? So for an organization like Uber, the alliance partner is also us lot who use it. So we feel we have a say in terms of being able to rate the drivers and also be able to ask for a refund if that's what we wish to have. If you've ever used the help support in the Uber app, it's amazing how many areas they actually help you with. We very rarely look at it, but very rarely is there a need to go there. But they have thought about it as there is this triangle of alliance. Uber as a platform itself, the drivers, and the end consumers. The product isn't owned by Uber. Uber has no say in whether the car is clean or not. But to have the drivers become self-motivated to take care of that, they provide a fabulous service to us as consumers of that, so that we can give our feedback, and Uber penalizes or makes sure that that communication is publicly available even. And there is a consequence for one of its alliance partners, the drivers, not keeping up what it is that they have signed up for. You see what I'm saying? There was a vision, and that vision could not have been realized as rapidly and to the extent to which it did get realized for an organization like Uber and many other Me Too propositions that have also come out. Many of them have been successful, and several have been disastrous because they did not think about this alliance approach. This Pearl of Wisdom is about the 7 facets that make for a perfect alliance. So lightening is extremely important. I mean, yes, making something lighter, all of that is good. But the thing that visually really landed for me as this is an important aspect for a perfect alliance is that third trimester piece. Because I've personally had a very definite experience of when the lodging took place. And it was a lightning experience. Even though the labor was horrendous, but actually it was lightning because ultimately the baby came out, you know, and all the pressures and stuff that my body was going through just released. But using it really only as a metaphor, when you work with this particular aspect and you're thinking about an alliance, look at how that plays out. I mean, another way of looking at this lightning piece, I have to be conscious of the time. Okay. Another way of looking at this lightning piece is in your, let's say you have a job or you're a consultant and you have an employer or you have, the organization that has retained you. The organization or the individual that has retained you. If you actually operate from a perspective of an alliance with them, where you have the charming Shishi aspect, you have the lightning aspect, and some of the others that I'm about to talk about, you will transform your own quality of life. You will become so much more effective, and they will have so much great value. They will be able to add even greater value than you even envisioned. So what if you are the employer and the owner of a business like this? What if you actually created an environment where you know that every employee of yours is an alliance partner? What would that do to some of the choices and decisions you make? Think about it like that. Implement it even if in a small way and see what results it produces. The third aspect of a perfect alliance is legit. Legit is genuinely good, possessing all the required and expected qualities, the real deal. Now think about it. If you were to use this as an employer, and you were to look at each person that is employed by you, in the choices you make, who gets employed, in how you induct them once they have joined your team or your organization. But you're looking at, is this person legit, genuinely good, possessing all the required or expected qualities, the real deal, to actually be my alliance partner? Because it doesn't matter where you're at in the organization. Even if it is the 900th or the 9,000th employee, and you've got a strategy which enables you to do a check in the box or tick in the box, where you are really looking at the legit aspect. Because by the time you get to number 3, the first 2 are already addressed. You will have a self-motivated workforce. Just like I did in my first Inspired Leaders business, we took Cisco in. They were genuinely good, possessing all the required and expected qualities. They were the real deal. And I made sure that lightning experience was there for them, because they realized, okay, we come in here, we are plugged into the top decision makers in a new country that we are embarking on an acquisition spree. And for us to be effective, for our businesses to grow, we don't even know how to communicate with people at that level. We want to get our partners in. They actually did that for us as a business. I didn't need to go out and even find who to go and sell the other 5 sponsorships to ensure that the business had all of its costs covered. They did it. That is where the legit starts to pay off very, very rapidly. The same thing applies to you, Catherine, when you look at your business manager. If you have that legit thing, and if you haven't already done it, you would do it. As a consultant, you would want to ensure that the individual or the organization that you're being a consultant to falls in this space. But it also means when you look at someone else, are they genuinely good, possessing all the required and expected qualities? Are they the real deal? You examine that for yourself first. Are you that? Because that is an important aspect of an alliance. There is no entitlement in an alliance. You're clear where you are the real deal. You find alliance partners who are that too, and that is where 1 and 1 becomes 11. Nimble is the 4th one. The nimble aspect for a perfect alliance. Nimble, a dictionary definition is it's quick, it's light, it's in movement, it's in action, it's agile. So quick to learn, quick to act, quick to move forward. There's that agility that is there. Now, nimble, if you are dealing with a particular issue that requires meticulous precision, you can't rush into it. And you have developed a way in which you're going to address it. If you then seek an alliance partner who is going to act and move things forward very fast, that's not a good alliance partnership, because the legitimacy of that alliance will not last that long. However, if you are a slow and steady operator, you want to get to the finish line, and you have built your organization in such a way that takes its time, but when it does do it, it actually delivers. Now you want to go and capture a new market. And it's in a new country that you don't necessarily know anything about. And you've got to go in and move fast and make a mark. You would want to get alliance partnerships with someone who can actually be nimble in exactly the way I'm talking about, which is act and move fast and have the agility to adapt as necessary. Think about your own personal relationship. You're moving into a new country, or you're moving into a new job, and you want to find a way in which you can settle into that job or into that relationship very rapidly. Nimble is an important quality that you will look for in your alliance partners. Who in your new organization, as an individual, you would want to have as an alliance partner? Not everybody will be your alliance partner. There'll be colleagues, there'll be friends, there'll be just teammates. Some of them will become your alliance partners. So the alliance strategy creates an automatic discernment. In terms of growing your business, growing your own professional career, in terms of enriching your personal health and well-being. You can have a doctor. The doctor doesn't necessarily become your alliance partner. Maybe your nutritionist is the alliance partner, and the doctor is there for the times that you require a doctor. Now, there may be certain health conditions where you do want your doctor to be the alliance partner. You start really looking at what is it that you wish to attain. Get clear about your vision. And in the context of that vision, you look at where you're going to form these alliances. So, this place that I spent a month, where it was all about learning to live a medicine-free lifestyle. And I'm traveling quite a bit. To me, they've become an alliance partner. So as I travel, if I've been gone for a while, I'll go back and I'll spend 2 days there before I go home, because it's great. I just have a very powerful, my body is in tune and in rhythm with their approach. I go there, I get detox, jet lag, all of that disappears completely. My body is, perfectly attuned to go forth and amplify. So I've chosen to make them my alliance partner in what I have taken on for 2023 in terms of my physical well-being. Now, 2024, there'll be no need for that. I know that, but this year, they are my alliance partner. And what they get from me is an understanding of how other people who are in my position could be a legitimate marketplace for them to go to, but they don't necessarily understand what is valuable and important for them. They get to learn that from me. So it's makes for a good alliance. And we are going through integrating these different facets. The fifth facet is irresistible. Irresistible, impossible to resist, extremely attractive, overpowering almost, where there's no convincing needed. The job's done. So when I started the Inspired Leaders Network, for me to get the first inspired leader to join in, I required to spend some time on how I was going to make what the proposition that I was taking to him irresistible. That meant that I needed to understand him beyond what was visible in public domain. I needed to understand him as a person before I went to see. I didn't know how to do that. But what I did know is what is it that I needed to know about him. So if only I could have access to someone who was his coach, someone who was working with him at a personal level, in the leadership that he was able to evolve into, that would be brilliant. I didn't even know who that would be. But I did become clear on about what is it that I was looking for. And lo and behold, there was someone who was like my sounding board, and I happened to meet him for breakfast, and I was just sharing with him, this is the person I want to get to, and I really want to meet someone who works with him at a personal level. And he said, my next meeting is with him. I am his coach. I had no idea. So I got to know him more as a person. Now, for me to get to know him as a person wasn't to just adapt my words. It was really to understand what was important for him. I understood that he is entrepreneurial at heart, but he's only ever exercised his entrepreneurialism within the confines of large corporations. But this is something that is unrequited. And that was my expertise. So when this person facilitated a meeting for me. So I went in and had the meeting coming from a very credible recommendation. But I also was very aware of what is it that I was going to bring to the party, because it was going to be an alliance. Because I wasn't being a consultant or anything to him. And neither was I asking him to be that to me. I was sharing a proposition, and I wanted him to own it as if it was his own and take pride in sharing his secrets and actually sharing it with those people that he admired. So the irresistible qualities were extremely important to have worked through in advance. Irresistible isn't only about words or a brochure. It is not even about how perfect it looks. It really is about what is it that provides exactly the value that the other person is wanting, not needing, wanting. at that point in an authentic way. And that is where it becomes so powerful and convincing that all resistance goes away. Think about where this might have showed up for you in your personal life. I mean, I've certainly seen this play out very powerfully, even as I was bringing up my son, in terms of some of the things that I have seen him take on, which I would have loved for him to take on. But there was no, if I kept going on about, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, look how good it is. It was not becoming irresistible. It was more of a battleground. So then when I decided he's actually going to be my alliance partner in having me evolve into an amazing mother who has this fabulous relationship with her child, which becomes a role model for others to emulate. I didn't even know what that meant. I just knew it would bring about that lightning experience for me as a mother. It was important. If something was important enough for me, I wasn't going to give him a lecture about it. I was actually going to take the time and make it absolutely irresistible, impossible to resist. Extremely, extremely attractive and so overpowering that he would want to take it on. So I adopted those strategies. And when you take on this irresistible in an alliance context, you're not manipulative at all. Because it is not irresistible to an alliance partner if there isn't authenticity at the foundation of it. That's what I found very powerful about this whole aspects of perfect alliances. The context is so different that integrity is anchored. For you to be able to present something that is so irresistible, you are going to be in your truth when you speak about it. You can answer and address any issues that are brought up, including, I don't know this. Like when I first spoke to this first inspired leader, he said, well, how do you know that people will want this? I said, I don't know whether they would. I know I want it. And I've now met enough of these inspired leaders that they would want to connect with other leaders. That they would want it. And he was one of those inspired leaders. He could totally relate to that. He says, yeah, I would want it. And that's true, where, every time I go speak at any conference, and I speak very rarely, people have all these questions, which are so basic to me, that actually I don't have a problem sharing what I do and my insider secrets, because I'm so far ahead already that sharing it will actually give me access to perspectives that I might have taken for granted. And yeah, I know that other leaders like me would want that too. But it's interesting. There's the way the alliance approach, it's very exciting. The way this alliance approach really locks in at a foundation level, that which holds your truth in place, brings a level of stillness within. Restlessness starts to disappear. Because it's a partnership that you have. The sixth one is velovious. So it is rapid and it's fast. It has velocity. That is there. Is where it takes you and gives you that speed in the right direction. And I know we are coming up to time. So, what is it that you can collaboratively co-create with this alliance partner that brings about speed and gets you to go in the right direction and get to that finishing point? Examine that for yourself. Look at where this has occurred in the past. The seventh aspect of a perfect alliance is it's ingenious, clever, original, inventive. And it's really very well suited for the purpose for which it is designed. In what I've talked about and how I created the Inspired Leaders Network from a quest to a flourishing business. This is what Ingenious was playing out every step of the way. With that, I pass it back to you, Catherine.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say. What a big wow. I didn't want you to stop. I was like, okay, can we extend this 30 minutes? That was such an amazing perspective on alliance. I'm just going to call this one our She Pearl of Wisdom for sure. Mynoo, it was so inspiring, both on a personal and a business level. So many lightning bolts, so many dots being connected. We could have gone on and on. So to be continued next week, our 100th Pearl of Wisdom. Thank you, Mynoo. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Absolutely brilliant. Wow. And with that,
Thank
we'll
you.
see you next week.
Thank you.